Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Guidance TV. We are here in Arizona. This is the city of the state of the Arizonians. There's a lot of air here, and it seems like it's a zone of air. But alhamdulillah, that's fine. Everyone has, to each and every person, their own zone. We have a very special guest with us tonight here on Guidance TV, and we are here to address the youth. Can I hear all the youth at one time say, MashaAllah? Wait a minute, I saw some people who weren't the youth. Huh? The cutoff? 85. So, we're here, alhamdulillah, to address some of the issues that our common youth are dealing with. And subhanAllah, here in America, there are quite a few things that we, as youth, see going on in our lives, in our schools, with our friends, the games, and all of the other stuff that we, when our parents are at work, in our neighborhoods, on TV, on Netflix, in the movies, in the movie theaters, and so on and so forth. There's so much that we see as youth. I count myself as one of the youth, because I'm not 85 yet. Whew. But nonetheless, a lot of times we feel like, man, mom and dad don't understand what I'm really going through, what I'm really going through. You don't understand. And so a lot of times we'll be upset with our parents, or our parents will be upset with us because we're doing things. And they're like, oh, get with the program. This is 2013. And they're like, oh, come on, man. For real, can we everything, how many of you guys have ever heard the terminology, everything is haram? Raise your hands. Everything is haram. Why is everything haram? Right? And we're going to get to that, inshallah ta'ala, in just a second. So, and on the parent side, if you're a parent, say MashaAllah. Wait a minute, I saw some of the kids say it too. You got to be like 8 years old. MashaAllah, you guys start early here, huh? How many wives do you have? Poor guy. No, so this, a lot of times we come from back home, wherever back home may be, and we didn't grow up with the kind of things that the kids are going through. Even me, I consider myself one of the youth, but when I was a kid, we had this thing called Atari, right? Then we didn't have to worry about violence. It was a little ball. The game that I used was, it was a little ball going back and forth across the screen. You could have did that with your fingers. Tick, 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 tick. Right? It wasn't something about Grand Theft Auto, stealing cars, going around killing people, blowing things up, and it wasn't so real. It was game, and you could play for like 15, 20 minutes, and then you got bored. You went out, you climbed a tree, right? And the girls played with the dolls, and they had these imaginations of, pouring tea, fake tea in a cup that was dirty. So this was the generation that I grew up in. Imagine the generation before me that grew up without this kind of pop culture, where certain things are okay. Nowadays, you might go to school, 10, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, and you have people in your classroom that are homosexual, right? As parents, we didn't have to deal with that. The question is like, how do we address that? How do we expose our kids to that? Because that's the reality of the world. But we have certain values as Muslims, and we have certain morals that we stick to. How do we? Everybody after middle school, every boy has a girlfriend, and every girl has a boyfriend. How do we? It's like, wow, subhanAllah, back in my country, no one looked at the woman until they're married. Absolutely not. So you come to America and it's like, whoa, it's a huge culture shock. And that's okay. That cultural shock is okay. And we come here and we go to school and we live the American dream. The challenge comes when we're dealing with that cultural shock with our children. Why? Because now, back when we were in school and we were busy with our lives, we didn't have enough time. We didn't have the ability to spend time with the people who were going through these difficulties, because there's some focus on work. There's focus on building a future for these kids. But the problem is that these kids do have that time. They're spending 8 hours a day, 5 days a week in this same exact system. So where do we strike the balance? Where do we come to Islam? How can we assure that these beautiful young brothers and sisters, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And how do we protect them from such a dangerous environment? Before we go into that, inshallah ta'ala, I want to talk to the kids. How many of you guys have ever been mad at your parents? Raise your hands. Come on. I've been mad at my parents too. How many of you have ever been mad at your parents? All right? MashaAllah ta'ala. Don't be shy. Your parents are here, and it's very important that we all understand that we all are human beings. Now, if you've been mad at your parents, I'll tell you one of the reasons. One time I was mad at my mother. I'm playing video games, right? Mario 64. That's before your time. I had a Nintendo 64. Woo! I would burn that thing. And it was time for Salah. And I'm playing. Now, this is a game that would take like 4 hours to get to the next level. Mom, I'm getting to the next level. Wait! It's Dhuhr time. Okay, I'm coming. Tell Abu Bakr to pray, and when he's done, then I'll come and pray so he can play for me. My mom comes down, Salah. Now I can't say anything to my mom. I'm so mad. But she was right. Another time. I mean, I can go on and on the list of things that my mother, she was so right, and I was so mad at her. And my dad was he's a very, very nice guy. He lets you do whatever you want. And as long as you do your ibadah on time, as long as you do your worship on time, he lets you do whatever you want. As long as you read your Quran, as long as you're do the adhkar of the morning, the remembrances, the supplications of the morning and at night, as long as you pray on time, he lets you do whatever you want. And so he'll call Harun, time for Salah. Okay, Dad, no problem. Come in. Now, mind you, with my mom, I would say, wait a little bit. I'll try to negotiate. A lot of guys don't really negotiate with Dad. It's like, oof. Dad, no negotiations. That is like a check, non-negotiable. So, time for Salah. Okay, Dad. Now this is something that would happen even worse. Now, alhamdulillah, I was young. I wasn't old enough. But my dad would say, time for Salah. I'll say, okay, Dad. 20 minutes pass by. Harun, time for Salah. I prayed already. Where? With Super Mario? Thinking back. Right? To get away. Now, let's move on to a different subject. Sports. For the girls, shopping, makeup, gossip, and the works, the rest of them. For the youth, what's the most important thing to every Muslim? What is the most fundamental rule? What is the most fundamental message that every prophet came with? Everybody, worship who? Worship who? What else? What else are we allowed to worship? Huh? Not the new Xbox? Can we worship the new Xbox? Huh? No? Why would we worship the new Xbox? I mean, subhanAllah, a lot of people think worshiping the Xbox is going in front of the Xbox and making sujood. Xbox. This is just one kind of worship. There's a lot of ways we can worship. Number one is if we put a priority over it, if we make it a priority over everything else. So if we make anything a priority above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we are worshiping that object.